Hello, all. I'm back again this week with Parenting Paused. Hope you had a good week. And if you listened to last week's podcast, we were talking about how profound our upbringing was and how it profoundly affects our parenting. This is such a big one to look at because, as I said last week, so many of us come to certain conclusions about our children's behavior based on our conclusions that we came to as children. Now, I'm going to give you an example for me. My daughter, I text her. She is in Japan now. And I text her the other day and she didn't text me back. Well, that is all that happened in reality. I text her and she didn't text me back. But my beautiful mind came to the conclusion and put a meaning to that meant she didn't care about me, or I'm not important, or she's ignoring me. So my mind goes into this conclusion that I had as a child because I was the third child and felt that I didn't matter and I wasn't important. So this track gets activated because I had an expectation when I text her that she would text me back. Now, again, all that happened was she didn't text me back. It did not mean that I wasn't important. I didn't matter. She didn't care about me. She was rejecting me. It was none of that. It was late at night, and I think she was probably asleep. And yet, I want to talk about how we come to these conclusions. And these conclusions are based on our early, often parenting experience or our experience as children. Now, of course, as children, we come to very young conclusions when our needs aren't met or we get in trouble for expressing our big desires. Often we will come to a conclusion that there's something wrong with us. Now, the reason we do that is because we can't go out and get new parents. I mean, you're not going to be able to say, oh, I'm going to go find parents that actually recognize my needs that aren't limited in certain ways. No, you're stuck basically with these parents until a certain age. So, in your wisdom, your young wisdom, you assume that it has something to do with you. And then the reason you do this is so you can keep your parents in a way up on a pedestal because they are the ones that are caring for you. They're the ones that are taking care of you. So, of course, your young conclusions may be about you and that you aren't important, that you don't matter, and that it's not okay to set healthy boundaries for you. A lot of us, when we did set healthy boundaries, which is to say no to certain things, which was to pull our energy back when we didn't want to go forward, which was to do our best to try to take care of ourselves, we got in a lot of trouble. And so you may want to think about that for yourself. Were there times when you actually were busy or doing your own thing and you got asked to do something and you didn't want to do it? And yet, when you said no, you were claimed to be defiant, selfish, rude, indignant, defiant. I think I said defiant. I'll say it again. So, if this happened, you began to create some structures or some protection around your healthy boundaries. You didn't really recognize that they were healthy boundaries. They looked like they were things that got you in trouble. And so, of course, you begin to adapt yourself and come to some conclusions that if I set healthy boundaries, then I'm going to get in trouble. So let me shift myself, let me adapt myself, let me manipulate myself to be who I need to be to get my needs met in the environment that I'm in. And yet, the conclusions that maybe you came to, like my conclusions of that I don't matter, I'm not important, they are not based in reality as an adult. So when those start popping up, which they did when I text my daughter and she didn't text me back, such a simple example, but those popped up again. And they pop up often in my life because they're based in my early childhood. So this is why we were talking last week about how profound our experience was. It doesn't mean that it dictates who we are or how we're going to be in the future. And yet, when we bring awareness back into that, when I brought awareness into that conclusion and that story, I was really able to check it out and go, actually, that is not true. What's true is I text my daughter and she didn't text back. Now, this is quite the practice, and I call this healthy personal boundaries. What's okay with me? What's not okay with me about how I treat myself? And if I treat myself as if I'm not important and that I don't matter, of course, I'm going to look for evidence of that out in the world, and I'm not going to be able to step into the reality of what is actually going on. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parenting Paused. If you enjoyed the episode, do me a favor and share it with your mama friends. You can also leave a review wherever you listen, which will support getting the Pure Joy message out. Come on over to the Pure Joy Parenting Practice Facebook page or join me on Instagram to hear more. And don't forget to download your free copy of the Safe Seat course on the Pure Joy website. And while there, check out the offerings page to go deeper in the Pure Joy work.